Well, hello there, friends, once again for our latest installment of Summer Pali Intensive, brought to you by the Buddhist Association of the United States, the Chuanyen Monastery in Carmel, New York, and the Wuju Memorial Library. I'm very happy to be here with all of you again. I'm also very pleased to have two friends helping me as co-hosts on the technical side of the endeavor, and I have my kind friend Regina hopefully monitoring the YouTube if there are friends there who have questions to relay. And so I hope you had a look at the monastery's website where I posted that letter about what we'll be covering today and what we've covered already. And the good news is that we've covered quite a bit in just 2 classes in just 1 week, and 10% there. Of course, no one can learn Pali in 5 weeks or any language, but we hope to give you sort of a big burst of momentum to continue your Pali studies after this class is completed. And so far, as you might remember, we spent a good amount of time talking about the Pali language as such, what it is, perhaps what it is not. We talked a bit about the alphabet, how the alphabet is arranged, the various kinds of letters found, and questions about spelling. And we also then moved to grammar. We started talking about the ideas of declension and conjugation. And we covered, in terms of conjugation, we've covered so far third person singular and plural of the present indicative case, or maybe just present case, present tense, I'm sorry. And then also we've also covered, in the terms of nouns, we've covered 4 cases: nominative, accusative, instrumental, and ablative. And so we have just 4 more to go. And today we'll be taking a pair that's often grouped together, dative and genitive. And so we'll be almost there in our sort of slow rollout of the 8 Pali cases. And so I wanted to say that right off the bat, I know all of you are working assiduously at home doing Pali primer exercises. And I wanted to put out there now that if there are any questions that arose, specifically now on Pali Primer lessons 1 through 4, that would be the exercises that are going from Pali to English. As I mentioned in this class, we're only really covering Pali to English. We go one way. So if there are any vexing issues about your homework for those first 4 lessons, I can take those questions now. And that would be done by, for the friends on Zoom, to raise your blue hand, and for friends on YouTube to enter in that dialog box, and hopefully I can answer a few questions about Pali Primer lessons 1 through 4. So I'll start off by unmuting Huang.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Which one was your question?
Yeah, so I have a question. The number lesson 4 and lesson 2. So which
Hang on just a second. Hold on. I should have mentioned that we have found a better edition of Dhamma books, of Pali Primer online, and we've put that link up on the website as well as the key, which people were asking for. So let me call up my copy. And I should mention that those, I hope you can see this, those books were found on the vridhamma.org website. I hope you can see there's Pali Primer, There's actually versions in the Hindi and Marathi language. So that's what I'll be using today. So let me call up my copy of the book. And I think you said you're talking about chapter 4
and 2.
and exercise number 2.
No. Just exercise number 4. But that's about the meaning of because I see for the verb eat, to eat, we have 2 different verbs.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing what you're looking at. You're talking about lesson 4, exercise 4, right?
Yeah, exercise 4.
Matula satake dovanti, right? And so there's no verb to eat here. The sentence means uncles wash garments. Can you see that?
No. So the verb lessons. The verb lessons,
No, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't understand which lesson you're in and which example you're in.
Lesson 4, but
Yeah.
we have 2 verbs, oturahi and oruhati, otarahi and oturati.
Can you tell me which example you're in, please?
That's exercise 4, number 9.
Number 9. Okay. Could you read number 9 for us?
Sure. Vanijo asena sadim pabatasma oruhati.
Mm-hmm.
That I know how to translate that.
Mm-hmm.
But I see that for the verb descends, because I translate like the merchant descends from the mountain with the horses.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct. You've done it right.
And the verbs oruhati means descends. But there is another verb that means descends too. That's otarahi.
Are you looking at a different example now? Oruhati means to descend. You've got it right. And I think we should move on to
Otaranti, number 11. Otaranti too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's difference between how can you use, because that's the same meaning.
Yeah, they have the same meaning. That's correct.
So
you have it right.
Is there difference?
Not in these sentences, no. They have the same sense, okay?
So I can replace oruhati by otaranti.
Yes. In these sentences, you certainly can. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see if there's some more questions. Emilia, do I have that right?
Yes, Stephen.
Okay, what was your question?
My question is that it's the lesson 4 as well. So,
okay. Which number?
Lesson 4. Look at this. It is like, let's say, what I'm really want to talk about it. 6, 7, 8, right?
I can't understand you. If you can give me the exercise number, it'd be very helpful.
The lesson number 4, number 7 and 8.
Okay, number 7.
So, at the number 6.
Wait, you just said 7. Are you switching to 6 now?
No, 6 to 9.
I could only take one. You can pick one, okay? Which one would you like to talk about?
I just given the sentence example, but I really want to know about in the lesson 4 is this, it's sardine and saha, and then without those of 2, how we can use it, because look at the number 6.
Yes, they both mean with or along with. They are both used here for the instrumental of accompaniment. They're interchangeable in this example, in these examples. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Oh, the mean is there is no specific and particular.
No.
Like okay.
They mean together with or along with.
Or without as well. Sadim or saha, without using it, we can use it ina or he.
They both mean, saha and sadim both imply an instrumental of accompaniment. They can be translated as along with or together with. Okay?
Okay. That is
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you. And we have one more here. Therapy?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Which was
Uh,
your question?
yeah, so to follow up with what Amelia was saying, so what even with a heat, sahim or sardine have to be used. They are not optional, right?
Keep in mind that these are made up sentences. These are not sentences from the Pali Canon. We're just trying to get a basic idea of how the cases work. And we're looking at the instrumental case. And often, when the instrumental is used in the accompaniment sense, with one person does something with another person or thing, we have these extra words, saha or sading.
I see. So one more question, very quick. Do we have and in Pali? Because I've seen just
Yes, but
commerce. Okay, in
we
the
have that,
exercises.
but
Yeah.
we haven't had it yet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question from here, then I'll do some if they're otherwhere. Vipul, can you ask your question?
Yeah, hi, thank you. The primer says that something cannot be used for things.
The primer says sadin cannot be used for things. How about horses?
I thought they were living beings. That's why maybe you could use that. But there's a sentence in the primer here which says that it should not be used with things.
Okay, but I would say a horse is a thing.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask now to Regina if there were any questions posed on the YouTube chat?
Yes, Stephen, there are. There are two questions. One is from Lori. She's saying that in lesson 3, you're dealing with instrumental and dealing with ablative in lesson 4. And she's wondering how to distinguish when to use instrumental or ablative since the plurals both end in ehi.
Yes, right. Good question. So we will find more and more that in Pali, various things share case endings. And this is very much the case for feminine nouns. They have a lot of commonality. And so it takes a type of contextual use and discernment to figure that out. So it's a question really of getting used to it, I would say. I hope that answers that question. But yes, a lot of case endings are shared, and we have to figure that which case is being implied by context. Is there one more question?
I see. Yes, there is. And this one is from UN, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is asking about lesson 3, exercise 5, number 11. They have thieves bring horses to the island, and their answer is Cora deep. Okay, my
Well, hang on. This seems to be a question of going from English to Pali, but as I've said already, we're only doing Pali to English.
I see.
So if there are any questions about translating from Pali to English, I can take those. Are there any more? No? Then we can move on.
Okay. Sorry
All right.
about that, UN.
Okay, let's move on because we have 2 more cases to talk about. Okay. So the first of the 2, well, first I should mention that dative and genitive in Pali are very much related. And in fact, there's only one distinct ending in, or I should say perhaps, it's only in the case or the class of nouns ending in short A where we find any differences in all between dative and genitive. And so once again, it's a situation where we have to use our discernment to figure out which case is being used. And I have to say sometimes it's not entirely clear. And some grammarians will even say it's dative genitive as sort of like one case. But the dative has some specific uses, and I thought I would first point us to a few sentences or perhaps sentence fragments from the real Pali Canon, just to give us a flavor of Pali before we go back to the Pali primer. And again, as I've said before, don't worry too much about the vocabulary. I'm more interested in, first of all, just getting you used to looking at Pali, sort of grinding down any sort of fear factor that there might be about Pali, and also to kind of start identifying words by their case ending. And so here I have a sentence fragment actually from the Dhammapada, and it says, Dukkang upenti punapunang charaya. And so the verb here is upenti, they go to suffering. And this is actually one word, it's a compound. And punapunang means again and again. And then here we have, I hope you recognize it as a dative, for a long time, charaya. So dative has the sense of for or to. And here we have the aya suffix. And now for my second example, we have what is perhaps the most famous example of datives in the whole Pali canon. And this is Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. And so perhaps you'll recognize some datives here with the asa ending. Tassa means to him. It's a pronoun. And then in this compound, Samma Sambuddhassa, that is to the fully enlightened one. Namo is sort of an indeclinable word. It's based on a word that means to, literally it means to bend. And when we bend to somebody, we pay them respect. And the word namo means homage or respects to namo. And as a sort of interesting aside, we have two more words that refer to the Buddha, Bhagava and Araha. And these words are also in the dative case, but they are from a different family. And so they do not take the case endings from the short A family, like Samma Sambuddhassa. Because remember, the word Buddho, or Buddha, was in our list of short A words. But these words are from a different group, Bhagavant and Arahant. And so they take a different one. Don't worry about that. What's important to know, the key thing to know, is that words or nouns must take the case endings from the group or class that they come from. And so while these are all datives, they are reflecting two different groups. But that's just something to put in your back pocket for now. And so here's another example. Samanang Gotamang Dasanaya Upasangkamitung. And then this is a sentence fragment. To approach in order to see the recluse Gotama. So you probably know that Gotama was the name of the Buddha. And we've had the word samana, which can be translated as a recluse. These words are in the accusative case. They are the object of this verb, upasangkamitung, which means to go, to approach. And then this word is our dative, dasanaya, to see. So why are they going to approach the recluse Gotama? They're going to see him. And so the idea of to see, the reason for the going, is expressed in the dative case, dasanaya. And so I hope you recognize this aya suffix. Here's one more example, and this one comes from our Ger and Karuna Tilaka book, chapter 1, I believe. And so I put it here because it's sort of a preview of what I hope to be doing in just a few weeks. And so this is from Anguttara Nikaya. Chittang bhikkhave agutang mahato anataya sangvatatiti. And so the key word for this is the chitta. The chitta is the mind. Actually, the word chitta can be sometimes translated as the heart, which leads to lots of confusion in the minds of people who don't study Pali very much, because they think that sometimes the canon is talking about the mind, and sometimes the canon is talking about the heart. But in fact, almost always, there are different translation choices of the same word, which is the chitta, which is more typically I would say, translated as mind. And this word mind, which is actually a type of nominative, it's what's called a nominative neuter, is modified with agutang, unguarded. And this is monks. It's in the vocative case. And then here's our verb, sangvatati, leads to. And a good thing for you all to know is that the verb sangvatati takes the dative. Samvatati means leads to. So there's our crucial to word, to, dative. Anataya, disadvantage. And in fact, disadvantage is being further described as mahato, a different kind of dative, similar to bhagavato, to great disadvantage. So in this sentence, mahato anataya is expressed in the dative case. Okay, so I thought we could then go to Pali Primer and do a few of her dative examples. And we have a new set of vocabulary, which I hope you looked at a bit. Some of it is quite interesting. The word tapasa, which is here translated as hermit, it's interestingly related to the root tap, which means to burn. So a tapasa is one who practices with sort of burning zeal. Tapasa. An acharya is a teacher. We don't have to talk about all of this. Vanara is one of the words for a monkey. In fact, the word for forest is vana, with a short a, and a vanara is a monkey. So perhaps a monkey is one who goes in the forest. And we have a bunch of verbs. The very, very important word for Pali Buddhism, pajahati, to give up, to abandon, is what we're often told to do. Okay, so I'm going to turn now to some exercises, which is dative. And perhaps we can take a few volunteers to do some exercises in Pali Primer lesson 5. And these are the exercises going from Pali to English. Okay, I'll do the first one. So here, Vanijo Rajakasa Satakang Dadati. So here the subject we recognize with that O, that's nominative singular, the merchant. And then we always go straight to the verb, dadati. He gives, the merchant gives. What is he giving? The direct object of that verb expressed in the accusative case, sataka, a garment. And then we have our dative, to the washerman. And so this is what is called in English the indirect object. And the indirect object in Pali is generally expressed in the dative case. Okay, and maybe we now can have somebody do number 3. And I see we have a hand from Huang. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you
Number
read for
3.
us number 3 in Pali and then give us an English translation?
Miga pasa namha pabatam davanti. The deers run from the rock to the mountain.
Yes, very good. And so here, this is a nominative plural. In English, there's a quirk of English where the word deer is the same for singular and plural. They run. Notice that the anti suffix, the personal ending, third person plural, matches that. We have a direct object, pabatang, and then we have here, this is actually an ablative, from the rock. So we don't have a dative in this sentence. Okay. Now I've unmuted Fiatra. I hope I'm pronouncing it okay.
great. Thank you. So which one am I doing?
Can you do number 5?
Number 5. Okay. So Puriso Vijaya Sakatang Akadati. Okay. So Akadati is so that's a new verb to drag. So so drags the cart. So the man drags the cart to the doctor.
What case is Vijaya?
Vijaya. Oh, okay, Vijaya. The Vijaya looks like that looks like a dative, is that right?
That's correct. So it's for or to.
For the doctor, is that
right? That's right. Exactly.
Oh, okay, yes.
Very good.
So I said to the doctor, but that'd be more accusative, would it?
Yeah, so it's really for the doctor. The man drags or pulls the cart for the doctor. Very good. Thank you. Okay, let's try it. Now we can try another one. Vera, I hope you can unmute.
Yes, morning.
Can you do for us number 7?
Number 7. Yachako Achariyaya Avatang Kanati. Yachako is nominative singular. Kanati is the third person singular. Avatang is accusative singular. Achariyaya dative singular.
Mm-hmm.
The beggar digs a pit for the teacher.
Exactly right. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have Sayan to do number 9 for us.
Brahmano Sivak.
I'm sorry, I don't hear you.
Brings fish for his disciples.
Can you read it in Pali one more time? I didn't hear you. I'm not getting any sound. I'm sorry. Okay. And the meaning? I don't hear you. I'll have to mute you. I think I got part of your answer. I'm sorry for the connection. Brahmano savakanang manche aharati. The Brahmin brings beds for the disciples. So mancha is a bed. It's accusative plural. And this is savakanang, for the disciples. Okay, let's try. Let's see if we could do we have one more. It seems to be actually the same people. I always would like to get more people involved, but okay, we can have Emilia do for us. Maybe we'll jump a bit to do a different one. Maybe could you do for us 19?
Apasakahi Otanem Lapanti. Samana is a monk.
Is it plural or singular?
Plural.
Right. So monks. Then we go to the verb, which is labanti. What is that?
Labanti.
Should I help you? Did you do your homework? I'll tell you. So 19. Samana upasakehi odinang labanti. So here, as I said, we start with a nominative plural, which is monks or perhaps recluses, and they receive labanti, odinang, the accusative, rice, and then upasakehi. So here, perhaps it was a question mark. Ehi is shared by two cases. Which one is it? Well, instrumental probably doesn't make too much sense. So I would guess ablative, from lay followers. So here is perhaps an example of sort of discernment that's required to figure out which case is being used. So I would translate as recluses receive rice from lay followers. Let's see if we could take one more person. Hui Lin from Kuala Lumpur. Are you there? Can you do for us 23?
I'm sure. Acharyo Darakaya Rukamha Sukhang Arharati. The teacher brings a parrot from the tree for the child.
Exactly. Very good. Thank you. So here we have a word which is extraordinarily rare and sort of useless for our vocabulary studies. And I'll just tell you that as soon as I was told that there was no real reason for me to learn this word, I never forgot it. But maybe that's just the way the mind works. When you're told you shouldn't have something, you just absolutely must have it at all costs. So that is the word for parrot. Perhaps she gives us because it maybe looks like sukha, like happiness, but it's a sort of a trick. I'm not quite sure, but we've had it translated perfectly. And so I see we have one more volunteer. Labanya?
Yes.
Can you do for us, let's see, 27.
Yeah. Luddhako Vanijjam Varahe Hanati.
Vanijanang. So the stress there goes on the long end.
On long end, yeah. Vanijanang. The hunter kills pigs for the merchants.
Exactly right. So what case is Vanijanang?
Vanijanang is this dative plural.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you very much. Good work. Okay. And so maybe I'll just quickly ask, because we unfortunately not able to have our YouTube friends speak, but if there are any specific questions that people just couldn't figure it out, this is the dative chapter, then I can try to answer it.
Hi, Stephen.
Yes?
I do have, so B is wanting help with translating exercise 4, sentence 11.
Okay, let's see if I can find that correctly. Exercise 4. I'm in exercise 5, I think.
You
Hang
are?
on.
No, I think you're.
Well, I'll go back.
I'm so sorry. You are.
That's okay. That's okay. But I think I did that. Matula satake dovanti. In fact, we spoke about this specific question. And so maybe that was a mistake. Any others? Is that it?
Yes, you did speak about that one. That's it, Stephen.
Okay, good.
I think that I can see, and I'm sorry, anyone, if I've missed you, it's not intentional. Keep asking questions.
Okay, then we can go on to our next case, which is genitive. And genitive is the possessive case. So let's go to lesson 6. And as it says here in our Pali primer, the inflections of the genitive case are very similar to those of the dative case. And so, as I've said, that genitive and dative are very similar, and they are sometimes impossible to discern which one is which. And another thing to know that's almost often, or very often the case, is that the word that's in the genitive, which is modifying the nominative, almost always immediately precedes what it's modifying. So here, in this example, she gives us, Narasa putto batang iyachati. So the subject of the sentence, the nominative, is the man, which is now the second word. And that's being there sort of described or further elaborated by narasa. So that nara, I have it backwards. I'm sorry. The puto is the son. And the nara is the man. So the man's son. Okay, let's look at another one. Matulasa sahayako ratang aharati. The uncle's friend brings the vehicle. So here it's the uncle's friend, or the friend, or the friend of the uncle. So maybe it's easiest if I look at some real life Pali first, and then we can look at the examples in the primer. So once again, turning briefly to the Pali canon, I have the sentence here. Ajakopan ananda ratya pachya pachim ma yame tathagatasa parinibanam bhavisati. And this is translated here, I'll tell you first, as today, Ananda, in the last watch of the night, the Tathagata's final nirvana will take place. And so, we're really concerned with this second half. The verb here, bhavisati, in a literal sense means will be. But here, it's being translated as will take place. And what will take place? The parinibbana, the final nirvana, the final nibbana. And then here is our genitive of the Tathagata. So we've had that word, Tathagata, here expressed in the genitive case. Tathagatasa parinibbanam bhavisati. The Tathagata's final nirvana will take place. For my second one, it's a very common sentence found in various places in the canon. Evang etasa kevalasa dukkha khandasa samudayo hoti. Thus is the arising of this whole mass of suffering. So some of you who have been around Pali Buddhism for a while might recognize this word khanda, which is the word often translated as aggregate, or a heap of stuff. And there are 5, of course, but when this word appears outside the context of the 5 aggregates, it's often translated more loosely, not loosely, but more generally, as mass, this whole mass of suffering. And so here, this whole mass of suffering, this of, is expressed in the genitive case. In fact, etasa kevalasa dukkha khandasa is all genitive. So evang is thus, and hoti as our verb here means is, and samudayo is the arising, and then we have this group of genitives, etasa kevalasa dukkha khandasa, of this whole mass of suffering. Let's look at one more. Chatunang bhikkhave dhammanang anuboda. Monks, through the non-understanding of 4 things. So here, anuboda is probably an ablative, and you can recognize that through the long A. But here we have chatunang dhammanang, that it would be a genitive plural of 4 things. So the word dhamma is a word translated in many different ways in Pali to English. We can't really pick one word and stick with it. And one of the sort of basic meanings of the word dhamma is a thing or an object. So that is some examples from the canon of how the genitive might be used. And I think now we can go to Pali Primer again and take some from the primer. And I encourage those who haven't participated yet to please participate if you can, because we'd like to have you get the opportunity to read in Pali out loud and then give a translation. So let's see. Do we have any hands? So I think we have Sayan. Are you there?
Yes, and now can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you do for us number 2?
Rama Nasa Kudalo Hatumha Patati. The Brahmin's from his hand.
Yes, the Brahmin's hoe falls from his hand. Good. And so here, in this example, we have several cases going on at once. We have Brahmanasa Kudalo. So here the nominative is ho, Kudalo, of the Brahmin. So notice here the genitive comes immediately preceding the nominative, the hoe of the Brahmin, or the Brahmin's hoe. And the verb is patati, to fall. And then we have hatamha. So a hatta is a hand. And this is one of our variants for ablative, from the hand. So remember, the case ablative has the sense of away from. So it falls from the hand. Okay, let's see if we can take another one. Catherine,
Yes, yes.
can you do number 4?
Okay. Vani Janang Asa Kasakasa Gamang Javanchi.
Mm-hmm.
Vani Janang is the merchant genitive. Asa horses plural. Kasa farmer, also genitive of farmer. Gamang is a village, accusative. Javanchi, plural verb. Merchants, horses, or the horses of the merchants. Merchants, village.
Okay, very good. I think I heard almost all of that. So here we have genitive plural, vanijanang, horses of the merchant, or merchant's horses, run, davanti. Notice the horses are plural, and then they run. So here it's taking the accusative as its direct object because it's a verb of motion. So although I'm saying in English too, it's a verb of motion, so it's being expressed in the accusative case. Run to the village, and this is another genitive of the farmer, or the farmer's village. So that was quite good, very good. And then we'll take another one. Golfin.
Yes.
Can you try for us number 6?
Okay. Amato Bupalasa Kagina Sapang Paharati. The minister hits the serpent with the king's sword.
Yes, very good. So what case is bupalasa?
Genitive.
Right,
Genitive.
and kagena?
Instrumental singular.
Perfect. Very good. Thank you. So I hope that one is clear. I'll read it, the English translation, one more time. The minister hits a snake with the king's sword, or the sword of the king. Mm-hmm. And now we have Jim. If you can unmute. Yes, I can now. Thank you. Can you do number 8 for us?
Sure. Koro.
Okay, hang on. It's choro.
Sorry, yes. Choro Vajasa Sakatena Mitena Saha Gamaha Nikamati.
Yes, choro vejasa sakatena mitena saha gamamha nikamati.
Okay, so Koro, the robber, goes out of the village by the doctor's cart with a friend.
Yes, I think that's right. It's complicated. I have to look at that. So yes, so here the subject of the sentence choro, with that ch sound, is how we pronounce that C in Pali, choro. Nikamati, leaves. And then we have here, what case is gamamha?
Gamamha is the ablative singular.
Ablative singular, right. And then we have this group, and as I said, the word saha, or it could be sading, goes with an instrumental as a type of accompaniment, the instrumental of accompaniment, mitena saha, so with friends. And then we have sakatena, also expressed in the instrumental here as sort of more like an instrument. How does he do it? With the cart. And this cart is being further described as vejasa. And so which case is vejasa?
That's the genitive singular.
Exactly. Very good. Good work. So I think that's correct. Okay. Let's take another one. We have punang, if you're there. Can you hear me? Can we hear you? I hope so. Can you do for us, let's try to do number 10.
Number 10 is Yatako, Amasya, Satakam, Ichati.
Okay, let me just read it one more time because I could barely hear you with my headphones. Yachako amachasa satakam ichati. Can you give us the English translation?
Yatako is the beggar.
Yachako is the beggar.
Ichati is desire. The beggar desires.
The beggar desires. Satakam.
Satakam, the minister's garment.
Exactly. Good. I heard you. The minister's garment. So here the beggar desires the minister's garment. So here's again our genitive, amachasa, of the minister, or minister apostrophe s, is often how we represent that in English. Very good. Okay. We have Gillian for 12.
Hi, Steve. You hear me?
Yes, I do.
Divarasa Kakachena Charo Kukurang Paharati.
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 Yes.
Okay, we've got a third person singular verb, and we're looking for a nominative singular choro.
Good.
That's a thief, I think.
Yes.
But I don't know what he's doing. I should know.
I hope you would know. What does paharati mean?
Is it steal?
No, it's not. It's to hit or to strike.
Okay, now he's hitting the dog.
Yes, that's the accusative.
That's accusative. And the dog belongs to Divarasa.
Well, not necessarily, but tell me what Divarasa kakachena.
Divarasa is the genitive, so it actually belongs to the kakachena, which is instrumental, I think. Checking.
That's correct. It's the with the sword.
Okay, thank you. With the sword of, and I don't know. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it's a very obscure word, divara, which means a fisherman.
The fisherman's sword. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, it's a rather random, I agree. But putting it all together into an English translation,
okay.
The thief, go ahead.
The thief hits the dogs with the fisherman's sword.
Yes, but tell me one more thing. Is kukarang singular or plural?
It is, it is singular.
Yes, it is. So he hits one dog, a dog.
A dog.
Right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's try now Rob.
Oh, wow. Hey, I got this to work. I didn't think I would be able to do that.
Would you mind doing number 14 for us?
Yeah, I have a quick question about the previous one. How do we know that it's the fisherman's sword and not the fisherman's dog?
Well,
if you just have to know, it's fine.
Because the dog is expressed in the accusative case. It's the direct object of the. I see your. I think I understand your question, and I think it's because of where the words are located in the sentence. Okay. And so, since diva, rasa, kakachena are adjacent, we would probably read it to be with the fisherman's, by or with the fisherman's sword, and not sort of leap over choro. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, good. Could you do 14 for us?
Okay, so, and I'm going to screw up the pronunciation. Panditasa Puta, and that's the son of the pandit, the son of the wise man. And so that's the
well, first, just read the whole sentence, just write out.
Panditasa Puta Buddhasa Savakena Saha Viharang Pavisanti.
Very good. Yeah.
Okay. So what I wrote down was the son of the wise man enters the monastery with the disciple of the Buddha.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so, okay.
So tell me what case, let's just get our cases right. What is this nominative here?
So the nominative is puta. Right?
Exactly. It's a nominative plural and it's being described by panditasa. Right.
Oh,
as you are right. I'm just kind of just reinforcing what you've said. So wise man's sons or sons
I missed the plural.
It's puta.
Yeah.
And then tell me what is our instrumental?
So it Virahang is the accusative.
Mm-hmm. That's not it.
Yeah. Savakena?
It's Savakena Saha together.
Saha.
Yeah.
Oh, because that's the instrumental of accompaniment.
Right. So this is one Savaka, Savakena with a disciple, right? Because Savakena is the ana suffix is instrumental singular. Right?
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Let's see, we have one more. Pat, are you there?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. Would you mind doing for us then 16?
Sure. So, Vijjasa Sunako Acharyasa Sopanangha Patati.
Yes.
Vijjasa Sunako would be the doctor's dog, I believe.
That's right.
Okay. Then, so the verb is patati, to fall, and sopanangha is an ablative, if I'm not mistaken, so it falls from the stairs. And then acharyasa is the teacher, and I'm presuming this is a dative, perhaps, so it would mean that the rather unfortunate circumstance of the doctor's dog falling from the stairs on the teacher.
No, because on the teacher would probably be represented by a different case, which would be the locative case, which we haven't gone to yet.
Okay.
So here I would take, and it's actually a different case ending. So this is a genitive.
Oh, it is. Okay. So that, the teacher stairs then.
Exactly. So give us a full English translation.
So the doctor's dog fell from the teacher's stairs.
Exactly. Right. And I'm running out of hands. Maybe would you mind doing quickly for us also number 18?
Give it a shot. Let's see. So Yajakasa Daraka Rodanti. Okay, so Yajaka Yajako is a beggar. Daraka is the plural of children, I believe, and rodanti is cry.
Mm-hmm.
So the children is the nominative here. So the children cry. Oh, sorry, the children of the beggar cry.
Very good. Very good. Because notice here we have the sentence that starts with the genitive singular, and then we have our nominative plural. So the subject is the daraka, the children of the beggar, yachakasa, and they are plural, daraka, and so they're expressed in the third person plural, rodanti. So that, as you've said, the beggar's children cry. Okay, let's move now to Vera. If you're there, I'm hoping you can do 21 for us.
Okay. Samana acharyasa hatena tatake labanti. Monks receive garments by hand for the teacher. Is it? Samana is nominative plural. Labanti is third person plural. Then acharyasa, dative singular. Hatena, instrumental singular. Tatake, accusative plural.
Mm-hmm. So acharyasa hatena would be from the teacher's or by the teacher's hand, right?
From the teacher, by the teacher's hand.
By the teacher would be instrumental singular. Good.
Thank you.
Let's see. I'm not sure. I'll see if I.
By the teacher's hand.
Okay, we're almost running out of participants, sadly.
Acharya, that means the monks. Monks receive garment by the teacher's hand.
Yeah.
But the sentence doesn't sound correct.
Well, it's because it's kind of a weird sentence, I agree. But the sense of it is what's happening is that these ascetics are receiving garments, and they're receiving them from the hand of the teacher. He's handing them to the ascetics. Do you see what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome. Let's try Vipul. And maybe he can do for us, I think we're up to, maybe would you mind doing 22?
22. Choro vani jassa sahaya kasma assam yachati.
Mm-hmm.
So nominative is choro, the thief. Yachati begs. Vani jassa sahaya kasma assam. The merchant's friend's horse.
Yes.
So assam is accusative here, and
yes,
then
yes.
And it's taking two genitives here, as in its genitive is taking another genitive.
Well, what case are you taking sahayakasma? The sma. Which case is that?
Okay, that's ablative.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, I confused. Yeah, I got confused. That's ablative, and vani jassa is genitive.
That's right. So give us a translation one more time.
So the thief begs
for the horse
from merchant's friend.
Exactly.
From the merchant's friend.
Yeah. Very good. Exactly right. Okay, good. You're welcome. Thank you for doing it. Okay. I can't quite tell if we have any more people because some people haven't put their hand down. If there's anyone else that would like to do a sentence, this is your chance to raise your hand. But perhaps you rather not. And so we're running out of people to do the work. But that's okay.
Stephen, I just make a suggestion for those already answer your question or speak to Steve. You can just lower your hand, so this way Steve can spot which one hasn't.
Yes, that would be extreme help for me. Right. I see one remaining hand, so we'll take that one more hand. So, Hui Lin from Kuala Lumpur, if you're there.
Hi.
Hi. Could you do one example for us? Can you?
That's 20.
Sorry?
Sorry, which one?
Yes. Would you mind doing 24?
Yeah, okay. Pasanamha, Migo, Patati, Ludako, Hazati, Sunaka, Dawanti. Pasanamha is accusative.
No.
Oh, sorry. No. No.
What case is this? What is this? What does this first word mean?
A rock, sorry. Yes.
Yes, but what case is it? From. That's right, from. So which case is represented usually as from or away from?
I must have got this wrong in the when I was doing it.
I think it's ablative. A deer falls from a rock.
Yes, that's right. Sorry, yes. Migo then is the nominative.
Yes, it is.
Patati is person,
Patati.
singular.
Yes.
Ludako is nominative, finally, singular. Pasati is the singular third person. Akar is nominative, plural. Davanti is running, run, sorry, that's a third person, plural. So it should be the deer falls from the rock, the hunter laughs, and the dog runs away, and the dog runs.
But tell me, is Sunaka singular or plural?
Plural. So
right. So dogs, the dogs run. It's plural. Right. Very good. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. So I'll just ask quickly if there are any YouTube questions about lesson 6.
Stephen, I have a question from Jessica regarding question number 14. She doesn't understand why the answer isn't the wise man's son enters the Buddha's monastery with a disciple.
Boy, it's tricky stuff. Let me take a closer look. Okay. So, number 14, to read it. Panditasa putta buddhasa savakena saha viharang pavisanti. And so here, I would just first take the first 2 words, panditasa putta. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stephen.
Yes?
I'm sorry. Jessica just wrote back that she would like to correct the question. Why doesn't it say the wise man's sons enter the Buddha's monastery with monks?
That is correct.
Oh, so that is correct.
So, but Savaka could be monk, it could be disciple, and with a disciple of the Buddha, Buddhasa, that is the genitive. So, Savakena, I'm taking it as instrumental singular. So, Pavisanti, they enter Viharang, the monastery, Savakena Saha, with a disciple, Buddhasa, of the Buddha. I hope that answers the question. Any other?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. Monks is singular or plural?
Well, the question is really what case is the ana suffix and what number? And I think it's instrumental singular.
Okay, so that's good. I have a question from Budi Hernawan, who would like to hear from you on how to memorize Pali words.
How to memorize Pali words? Well, it's a very good question. And as I'll first say, as I've said already, that many of the words we're encountering in Pali Primer are not that common. So I've tried to stress that it's not so crucial to memorize all the words you're finding in these sentences. But I would say probably the best way to start memorizing words is to read them out loud. I would say that a big challenge in learning a language like Pali, which is a language we can't really have conversations with other people, is that we tend to do it all in our head. We tend to just stare at the page in silence and hope for the best, which this is not the best way to learn a language, of course, because it kind of inhibits our ability to say the language out loud, to pronounce it correctly, and also it's harder to sort of reinforce the meaning, because I think it's much easier to learn something when it's heard and then when it's just looked at on the page. So in other words, what I would say is to be willing to read either sentences or perhaps even just words out loud to oneself. And then if that would be a good start. And of course, another way is the more simple way, which is, well, in the old days, for older people like me, we would call them flashcards, where we would have on one side of a piece of paper one language and on the other side the other language, and we try to remember them. And I think, as I've mentioned in the first class, there are online, I think, free Pali Primer language drills one can find, where you're sort of drilled in this vocabulary set. So I think that would be a good thing to explore as well. But as I said, don't be super obsessed about remembering every possible word for dog. And as I've said, the word for parrot, not so useful. It's a very agrarian vocabulary set. Okay, any final questions from Regina?
I think that's it. So that's it so far. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay, you're welcome. So I think what I'll do in our remaining few minutes is just briefly talk about, because I'm hoping for Wednesday we can cover lessons 7 and 8, which is locative and vocative. So here is chapter 7, and we have a big, huge list of words. Some of them you probably will know, or perhaps even recognize. For instance, the word for sailor is navika, which is an Indo-European word. And you'll recognize through the word naval that it's directly related to the word navika, a sailor. The word akasa is a very important word, and I recommend memorizing that one. And you probably know deva. So here we have a lot of words that I hope you can start looking at. Pasidati is a very interesting verb here at the bottom. It literally has the sense of to become glad, as it says, or to be pleased with, but it also has the sense of to kind of gain confidence in, which is an interesting thing. So it has some sort of a double or multiple meanings. To gain confidence in the Buddha's teaching is pasidati too, in a sense. Tarati, very common, to cross. We have the Dhamma name sometimes Taraniya, one who's crossing. Jivati, to live. Vasati, also to live. They mean very much the same. So we've had the word vihara, which is a monastery, but actually the most fundamental meaning of vihara is a place where one lives, and we have the verb that represents that as viharati, a very common word, which not only has the literal sense of a person living in something, but it also has a more extended and very common sense of sort of being in that way. One dwells mindful. So of course, when one dwells mindful, one is not living in a place called mindful, but one is sort of embodying the mind state of mindfulness. So it's another way the verb viharati is used. Notice the pronunciation of this word for walks. It's charity, not karate. So in Pali we pronounce this C as charity. So as you probably have surmised, the locative case is all about location, where something is. And there are several in this group of nouns, case endings for locative singular. There's e, umhi, and smin. The most common, probably by far, is just the letter E. So, for instance, here there is the word nara, the man, placed in 3 forms of the locative, nare, naramhi, and narasming. So that really has the same sense. So don't think that one might mean more the other in terms of a shade of meaning. They all can have these senses. So they don't really lend a specific kind of shade of meaning. They seem to be, for the most part, interchangeable for the most part. And so in the plural, we're sort of let off a little easier, and there's just one, esu, nareso, naresu, in or at or on men, matu lesu, in, on, or at uncles. So here we have our example sentence, sappo narasming patati. So the nominative we can now easily recognize with the O, the snake falls, and here we have our locative, narasming, upon or on the man. And here's another example with a different option ending, putto matu lamhi pasidati. The sun is pleased, matu langhi. So here it seems somewhat of a extended meaning. I find maybe this is a little bit of a confusing example that I wouldn't personally have chosen because it seems to have somewhat of a instrumental sense. I'm not quite sure about that. But we will look at them all on Wednesday, and I strongly encourage you all to do the exercises in the locative, because remember that learning Pali is not a spectator sport. And also what I'd like to do is quickly move to the vocative case, because the vocative case is very simple to know. It's just the word we use to speak directly to someone. And so the most common one is bhikkhave, O monks. So the Buddha often seems perhaps like he has to check that his monks are paying attention, that they haven't nodded off. And he's constantly saying in the Pali Canon, O monks, bhikkhave, like, pay attention to me, this is important. That's invocative case, invoking. We have this slightly artificial, the use of the O man, nara. The eagle-eyed ones might have noticed that the vocative case endings are actually the same as what are called the uninflected stem form, the form that we would find in the dictionary. So they share that. So nara is the form of the word that you would look up in the dictionary, but it also is, less commonly, the vocative case. Okay, and since the vocative case will go very quickly, I would also like to have a beginning look at what's called the gerund, the absolutive, or the indeclinable participle. These are 3 words, 3 terms for the very same thing. And my strong preference is to use the term absolutive and not the others, because I find it very confusing, because in English what's called the gerund is not what's being referred to in this lesson. It's a completely different type of verb. So very quickly, just to sort of ready you for Wednesday, I will tell you that the absolutive is a form of the verb, which is in fact indeclinable. It doesn't take any other endings. It's just one form of a verb which has a sense of an action which immediately precedes the action of the main finite verb in the sentence. So one more time quickly. The absolutive is a form of the verb which is indeclinable, and it has an immediate past sense, and immediately prior usually, although sometimes concurrent with, the main verb of the sentence. And this is a very common way that Pali expresses action. So we can say Stephen, having logged in and having checked his email, wrote his essay. And so here, the main verb is wrote his essay. But I have these other pieces that I've done right before, having logged in, having checked email. And those are what the absolutive. And so we use this word having a lot. It's sort of a helping word, pachitva, having cooked. And so the woman, having cooked dinner, presented it to the monastics. So this is sort of an action that is immediately preceding the main verb, which in my example was presented it to the monastics. So we're going to look at that much more and how it's built. We have these examples, but if you could kindly start to do the exercises in this chapter, give it a shot, see what you can do, and it'll be good if you can sort of volunteer to give it a try, and we'll work on it together. Okay, I think we're out of time. I thank you very much for your patience. We've covered a lot of material. We've covered 6 out of 8 Pali cases, and by Wednesday we'll have completed all 8 and begun work on the absolutive. So thank you all very much.
Stephen, before you go, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I have a question. One of the students is asking here, what exactly is the homework assignment for next class?
The homework assignment exactly for the next class is to take the lessons for the locative, the vocative, and beginning the absolutive. So that would be lessons 7 and 8. Although, as I said, we're going to pass over 8 quickly and then move on to beginning lesson number 9. 7, 8, and the beginning of 9. Okay? I hope that's clear. I thank you all very much. And I hope you can all come back on Wednesday and we can do more Pali together.
Yes. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thanks, Stephen.
I know.
Thank you.
Bye.